Hello, everyone. Welcome to DES105. This is our page layout tools week 2 of Mod 5. So welcome. I want to say thank you to those who are planning on attending, who have come, and who are joining me via the recording at home. So welcome to week 2, guys. We survived week 1. How did we feel it went? Week 1 go according to plan? Was a little bit challenging. We had to do some menu cover designs for week 1. So that was our first assignment. So just kind of wanted to gauge how you thought it went, because I kind of like to get feedback on it. A lot challenging, very challenging, yes. And for some of us who have not used or have been exposed to or familiar with InDesign at all, or starting from ground zero, this can be a little bit challenging trying to figure out all the tools, how to place objects on pages and get that all set up, how to manipulate type. That can be a little frustrating, but so don't worry. A lot of you did excellent on the menu cover designs. I was very impressed, being that this is a beginner course and this is some of you, your first time trying your hand at design. I was very impressed. Just wanted to go over a few things about last week's assignment. So we're going to be talking a lot about the principles of design, and I want you to apply that in your resubmission. So if you make those changes, I want you to try to think about that a little bit and apply those into your changes. Now, basically, last week I gave everybody an opportunity to resubmit their assignment for more points. So I'm a big fan of resubmitting. Now, you can't do multiple resubmissions, but you get one chance to resubmit. So if you didn't do so great the first time, go back and take the feedback and the critiques that I gave you, apply that, and then resubmit, and then you have a chance to earn back some points on your assignment. A lot of students like this. It gives them an opportunity to kind of fix things. I think it helps you guys learn a little bit better, and it's basically like real world experience, because if you were working at a design industry, or I'm sorry, if you're working in the design industry or at a company that does graphic design, you're going to have clients that are going to be sending things back for multiple revisions. So it's good practice to get into, to take feedback, make those changes, and resubmit. So just real world experience here, and also I want to help boost your grade as much as possible. So let me know if you have any questions with the feedback that I gave. If something wasn't clear or a little confusing, I'm happy to help. Come join me on Thursday during the multi-session. I'd be more than happy to look at your work, and then you can get a grade on the spot before you resubmit. That way you can be guaranteed a good score. So come see me. And then today we're going to be talking about quite a few things. We're going to be talking about the CRAP principles of design. You heard that right, the CRAP principles. Each one is an acronym, each letter is an acronym, and it stands for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And we're going to learn why those are so important in graphic design. And you'll start to learn and understand that it's not just a science, that there's an art to this, and there's a thought process that's involved. It's more than just merely placing things on a page, okay? Hey, Debbie, thanks for joining us today. Also, we're going to learn how to set up style sheets. Now, style sheets can be a little confusing to someone who's just starting out with graphic design, so I'm going to try my best to lay it out simply. You will need to understand how to set these up for your week 2 assignment. Now, does everyone know what we're doing for week 2? Have you looked ahead? Little sneak peek. We'll get into it in just a little bit, but hopefully you've been in the discussion already. I see that we have few numbers in the discussion, so if you haven't posted already, please be aware that tomorrow is the deadline for your week 2 discussion post to get that initial post in for maximum credit. Please be aware that late discussion posts are not accepted. That's not my doing, it's just college policy, so I can't really override that. So please make sure you stay active and attentive so that we can record your attendance and get you some points. All right, and then for those of you who have not looked forward, that's totally fine. I know we take our 1 week at a time. So week 1 was the menu cover design, where you created 2 options, right? Your 2 menu cover options. And then what you're going to do is take the best one, so the one maybe that you got the best feedback on, or the one that you liked, and after you go back and make those changes, you're going to submit that, and then you're going to add a page and design the interior page of the menu. So not only do you have the menu cover, but you're going to have the menu items as well. All right, so you're going to be utilizing InDesign's character panel to apply changes to font size, kerning, tracking, and leading. We're going to go over that if you're not familiar with what those terms mean. You're also going to learn how to manipulate the paragraph panel, adjust text alignment, but the one thing that you will be doing is that your graphic presentation is going to reflect your type choices, and the overall look should reflect the price point, the market, and the target audience of the restaurant that you chose. So for example, if you chose Maxwell's Fine Dining or the Steakhouse, that's a fine dining restaurant, which is a lot different than some Chinese food restaurant, right? So this is a fine dining restaurant, and you want to be able to target the audience that you're trying to reach. So usually the audience would probably be someone who would maybe spend a little bit more on a food item, right? So the prices will be higher. It'll look a little bit more, well, it can look however you want, but it's going to be a little bit fancier, maybe a little bit more contemporary. But just start thinking about what audience are you trying to reach, and the price points of these menu items, and what kind of design, because it's going to look a lot different than some sandwich joint, right? So make sure that your menu can be read in both sunshine and candlelight. So if we have dark color on dark backgrounds, or or a font on a very busy background, if you can't read it very well, then perhaps you need to go back to the drawing board and change things up. So your ultimate goal is to express the restaurant's personality in a visual way. I want to be able to tell what kind of restaurant it is by just looking at your cover and by opening up the interior page, okay? So for this assignment, we'll go over more in detail. I'm going to design an interior page for you, show you how to create the elements that you're going to need. So pay close attention. I will also be posting a shorter demo of this menu interior page for assignment 2. I will also post a list of steps that you'll need to do for certain things, how to set up a paragraph style. I'll post that in the announcements. I'll also post how to package your file again. That's also in the announcements, how to zip and package a file. And then is there anything else that kind of threw you off last week that you probably like a list of how to do, or anything? I did post a short demo as well for week 1's assignment, so please check that out as well. I should say shorter. It was about 4 minutes. All right. So we are talking about the principles of design. So like I said, contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. I want to briefly go over these because it's very important and you will be graded on them. So it's up to you how much you pay attention at this point, but I really want you to be able to understand the difference between them. So I'm going to have you help me. We're going to do a little exercise. I want you to go on Google. I want you to type in menu design, or it could be like pick a type of restaurant or a type of food place. So it could be Chinese restaurant menu design, or a barbecue restaurant, or burger joint, or whatever it is. I want you to find, or just type in a generic menu design and click on the images tab, and I want you to scroll through and find one that catches your eye. So I want you to do that. That's your assignment. I want you to find one and give me a smiley face when you have done it, when you've pulled it up on your computer or you have it up, because I'm going to have you share your screen if you're willing, and we're going to talk about it just a little bit. So I want to see what caught your eye. Does that make sense? So while you're doing that, I'll just keep talking a little bit, but we are designers, and we, without these 4 elements, it really does look like crap, our design. So we really want to avoid that, and we want to make sure that we can include contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. This will help us know if our design is working or not. It's very important. All right, so let's talk about contrast a little bit. Contrast ultimately means it's change. It's something that stands out. So I have a little story I wanted to tell you. And again, give me a smiley face when you have found a menu layout that has caught your eye. And you can just give me a smiley face, let me know it's there, and we'll pull up your screen. All right, so as a graphic designer, I could tell you if your website design or if your menu design or whatever is as we like to say it, crap. Not crap as in crap, but I mean CRAP as in the underlying principles of good design. So CRAP stands for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. You'll hear me refer to these words, these descriptors very often throughout the mod, especially in your feedback. Hey, so-and-so, you might want to adjust the alignment of your text. Things are not quite aligned, or I don't see enough contrast in the font color size. So just so you're aware of what these terms mean. And also the 4 principles of design so that we all need to adhere to. So the story that I want to tell you is about the Joshua tree. Has anyone seen a Joshua tree? Does anyone know what that is? If you're a fan of U2, you probably have seen a Joshua tree. Okay, I'm gonna look one up for you guys while I'm talking. So a Joshua tree can often be found where I'm from, California. It's kind of in the northern area, but I'm gonna find a good picture and show you guys. Okay, I'll show you what a Joshua tree looks like. So I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see it. Okay, so do you see kind of what this looks like? It almost looks like it originates in the desert a little bit, but it's kind of got this, it's very thick branches, and then it's got some bushy pine needles almost at the top. Do you see that? So it's very distinguishable. So you might not have known that that's what it was when you looked at it, but that is what a Joshua tree looks like. So here's a good one right here. So it's very thick stalk, very thick, almost like a cross between a pine tree and a palm tree, but it's really cool looking. So anyways, that's what that is. That's a Joshua tree. And the story I want to tell is about a Joshua tree and a girl who didn't even know what it was. So basically, long story short, to get your head around the CRAP principles, I want to tell you a true story that's found in the Non-Designer's Typebook by Robin Williams, the author. And he goes on to talk about once upon a time, Robin received a tree identifying book where you could match a tree up with its name just by looking at its picture. We all have seen that, something like that before, where you're given a picture and it's very distinguishable. You kind of know what it is. Okay, cool. Thanks, Richard. I saw that. That's awesome. I will call on you in just a minute if you want. So anyways, so she was given this, or he was given this picture. Robin decided to go out and identify the trees in the neighborhood. So Robin's trying to find out if he can name the trees in the neighborhood. So, or I'm sorry, she. So before she went out, she read through part of the book, and the first tree in the book was the Joshua tree, because it only took 2 clues to identify it. So it was a pretty simple tree to spot. Now, the Joshua tree is a really weird looking tree, and she looked at that picture and said to herself, oh, we don't have that kind of tree in Northern California. That's a weird looking tree. I would have if I would have known, I would have known if I saw a tree like that, and I've never seen one here. So she took the book and went outside. Turns out her parents lived in a cul-de-sac of 6 homes, and 4 of those homes had Joshua trees right in the front yard. And she had lived in that house for 13 years, and she had never seen a Joshua tree. She took a walk around the block. At least 80% of the homes had Joshua trees in the front yards, and she had sworn she had never seen one before. So what's the moral of this story? Once Robin was conscious of the tree, once she could name it, she noticed it everywhere, which is exactly my point when it comes to graphic design. So once you can name something, you're very conscious of it. You have power over it and you own it. You are in control as the designer. So that's why we're going over these 4 basic principles. Now, Richard said that he already had something up. Richard, if you don't mind, do you want to share? I don't want to do it if you'd be uncomfortable, but if you want to show me that layout that you chose. Awesome. I'll close out my share screen. If you'll just click share screen, it's a little icon with 2 windows. You see that? And just either select your desktop or the program you're working in. So what Richard's going to do is going to show us, okay, perfect. All right, and then Richard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute your mic. If you want to just tell me real quick, why did you select this menu layout? What attracted you to it?
Mostly the colors and old-fashioned look to it.
Yeah, it's kind of got a vintage look to it. I like that. Great. Awesome. So a few other things, thank you, Joshua. A few other things that I like about this layout, like he mentioned, is colors. It was very colorful, so the colors grabbed his attention. And then it kind of had a vintage feel to it, almost like a, let's see, watercolor look, or almost like a sketched look. So that's really cool. And then if you notice the really nice, neat and clean aligned menu items with pricing. So that is a great example. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so we're going to jump right back into here. And I'm going to show you a little slideshow. So we're going to talk about contrast and what it is a little bit. Now, keep your example up, Richard, if you will, because based off of what we saw, I'm probably going to have you share your screen one more time. But we're talking about the 4 basic principles. So what is contrast? So contrast, real quick, is the idea that you want to avoid elements on the page that are merely the same. All right? So we want things to stand out using contrast. So an element of contrast on this slide, what would be an element of contrast? What would be your guess on this slide that I'm sharing? Any guesses? The purple, excellent. So first thing Richard noticed, again, is the color. So color can act as a contrasting element, right? The color pops because it's contrasted. It's a very dark color on a very white background. So there's contrast there. Excellent. Do you see anything else that might be a version of contrast? The lines, absolutely, Debbie. That's a great example. The lines, you've got the thin line and then you've got a very thick line. So the idea behind contrast is to avoid elements on the page that are very similar. If this all was the same size, so even size, font size, the word contrast is larger than the description, and it's also in a different color. There's contrast. So basically, if the elements like type, color, size, line thickness, like Debbie mentioned, shapes, spacing, if these are not the same, then kind of make them very different. If they do seem the same, then you need to make them very different. Contrast is often the most important visual attraction on a page. Can you see the difference between your content or your headings or your body copy on your menu design? I want you to think, can you see contrast in your menu design, or is everything the same shade or the same size? Is it in the same place? We want to see contrast with spacing and font size and color as well. The lines, yeah. Okay, so let's look at an example. Here's an example of good contrast, an example of bad contrast. When everything kind of gets washed out, or it's kind of very monotone in its look, we really want to make sure that we have examples of good contrast. Okay, here's another one. Which one do you think is easier to read just off the bat? Which one? Yeah, the bottom. Yeah, the bottom is the easier one to read. Bottom one, definitely. Here's why. Because you have a dark blue on a dark red background. So you've got a dark font on a dark background. That strains the eyes. You'll often hear me say, well, you need to increase the legibility of this. It's dark color on dark background is very hard to read. Your eyes almost take a breath. They almost relax a little bit when you see a dark color on a light background. So this light tan colored box complements the dark maroon font that you see here. So you've got a light background and a dark font color. So there's two contrasting colors here that allow the eye to read this very easily. Okay, let's look at this example. I often see this with menu design. So I have students that love to put a background on the back of their menu items on the page where they have all their menu items, and it gets very busy. It's very hard to read. So please avoid this. I prefer just a white background personally, but if you're going to add color or a background image of some sort, then please be aware that you need to make sure you have contrast, proper amount of contrast. So the watermark in the background is set at 50% opacity. That's bad. But the watermark set at 15% is almost a very light background with a dark font on top, so it's easier to read. So which one would you say is easier to you? Which one has a little bit more legibility? Yeah, the bottom for sure. And that's because there's the right amount of contrast there. All right, let's talk about repetition. Repeat visual elements of the design throughout the piece. This is what I want to see. Versions of repetition. So let's see. Richard, would you mind sharing your menu design again, the example that you found? Awesome, thank you. And so let's talk about, I'll unmute you guys, both of you, if you want to just shout it out. You don't have to type, but what are some elements of repetition that you see? What are some things that repeat?
Price.
Go ahead.
Price.
The price, excellent. So sometimes it can just be an element on the page like the price. Excellent. So price, it repeats over and over. And it doesn't mean that the price is the same. It just means that each item has a price. So that's repetition. Anything else?
The brown color.
The brown color throughout. So it's kind of pulling, I think they're using shades of brown from the food item there at the bottom of the menu. Let's see that little image there. I don't know if they're cookies. Can't quite tell, but also the drink as well. They're pulling the tones out of there. Repetition can also be found in color. Excellent. Anything else that stands out? Something I noticed was the, going back to Debbie's comment, the menu items. I liked how the contrast in the, look at the menu item, flat white, cappuccino, cafe latte. Those are all in the same font size and same font color, same font family. So it's the same font size, and same color. So those throughout, it's formatted to be the same so that we know very clearly and can spot the menu item very easily. So that's a form of repetition. Excellent job, guys. Thank you so much for participating. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and we'll come back into here. Okay, so like we saw, repetition can be seen in color, spatial relationships where things are placed, line thickness, sizes. This helps develop the organization and kind of strengthens the menu's unity. And without these elements, it's gonna look all jumbled. So look at this. It's kind of hard to see a before and an after, but when there's more repetition on the page, it does seem a little bit easier to read. So a repetitious element on the right example would be the underlines, formatting the subheadings in the same font and same color. So this is repetition. All right. Okay, let's talk about alignment real quick. We'll just get to the third one on our list. Nothing should be placed on the page arbitrarily, okay? And I really want you to think about where you place elements on the page. Before you put anything on the page, whether it's a picture or text or an object or a design element, I want you to think, what's the point of this? What's the purpose? Thank you. I think I did. I think you guys are muted. Is everything good? I think it's muted. All right. So basically every element should have some visual connection with another element. So let's look at this example here. And alignment's going to be huge, especially when you're working with menu items. You don't want things off You want everything, imagine like an imaginary vertical ruler and horizontal ruler, making sure everything is lined up. Text boxes are lined up, they're not sporadically placed. We want to make sure that the alignment is correct. And this creates like a very clean, sophisticated, fresh look. So does everything line up, or have you got things centered? Or do you have some text centered, some text left aligned or out of place? Make sure that your text is aligned to the same throughout your entire document, okay? We don't want to mess with that. Okay, and look at this one. So we've got a centered alignment if you do things in the center. We've got a right alignment if you decide to do things on the right side. All right, and then our last one, let's see, items relating, okay, so this is proximity. So basically, items relating to each other should be grouped close together. That's what that's saying. When several items are in close proximity to each other, they almost become one visual unit rather than several separate units. This helps organize information and it really reduces clutter. So can you find everything you need on the menu design that you chose, Richard? Are you easily able to spot the menu items? So I would say yes, because the menu items are all kind of grouped together. They're not spread out. Yeah, they're not spread out on the page randomly. They're all in one specific section. So yeah, I would say they follow the rule of proximity. So it's all organized information. It reduces the clutter. I don't know if you guys are, organized, like to stay organized or not, in with home life or work life. But if you do, these four design principles really help, and proximity really, you can relate to it. Yeah. So if you are, Debbie, I'm kind of OCD when it comes to organization. So I've got everything in its place and everything. So I relate to proximity. I like grouping things together and keeping things in close proximity with each other. It speaks to me. All right, here's an example. So the before example shows a ballerina up here at the top and a little ballerina here at the bottom. And imagine this is your menu design. So maybe you have a food picture up top, you have a food picture at the bottom, and then your menu items are all in the middle. This can kind of be confusing. So look at the after example. You've got the headline, the subheadline, and the one picture of the ballerina. So it's all grouped together. So you know what kind of ballet this is. And then you've got the content and the information at the bottom. And then it's grouped with the contact information, the pricing at the very, very bottom. So things are in hierarchical order. And you can find everything you need on this page. Yeah, the second is way better because it keeps everything grouped together, whereas things are just sporadic on the left side. Even this before and after, I don't know if you can tell the difference, but on the after, it almost has little sections, which makes it easy. It breaks it up for the eye. It makes it easier to scan and makes it easier to read. And so I want you to apply this kind of proximity, this kind of organization with your menu items, because you're going to be working with a lot of text, a lot of menu items, and we need to format it correctly. So I'll show you how to do that when we jump into it. When it comes to fonts, I see a lot of students like to use a lot of fancy fonts because they're working with fancy restaurants. But the rule of thumb here is to pick one or two fonts and only use the font styles within that font. So for example, if you're using Times New Roman or Arial, I want you to pick that font, and then you can do an Arial bold for the headline, but then maybe use an Arial regular for the body copy. So that you still have contrast, but there's unity. Too many fonts can muddle up the design, okay? So a good use of fonts is to use repetition. So if you're going to use a fancy font as the header, then maybe repeat that font somewhere else within your menu and only stick to two fonts at the most, okay? Maybe a basic font and a fancy font, or a unique font and a basic font. And I just want to throw it out there that we don't want to use fancy script fonts, anything italicized or anything like that in the body copy, in the menu description, because it's hard to read when it's very small. Fancy fonts or unique fun fonts are easier read when they are larger. So maybe they'd be better for menu items or the headline of the menu. Okay, that's it for the CRAP principles. Any other questions? We kind of had to get through that just because we're going to be graded on it. So just as a review, you can have contrast in texture, shape, look at that contrast, orientation, how it's placed, color, if it stands out, position, and size. We talked about contrast as far as legibility and colors. The middle one is a bad choice because it's too light. There's not enough contrast there to help you read the text. Same with the left one. It's dark font on a dark background. There's not enough contrast. We went over repetition. So here's an example. What are some elements of repetition on this example? What are some things that you see? What are some repetitive elements that you might see? The lines, absolutely. You've got the lines kind of sectioning off the pull quotes. I like that. Anything else? Something I notice is the bold font. They kind of have bold font in those sections. That's repetitive. They're using color as repetition, even shapes as repetition. So this is a very good example of repetition. Alignment. This is going to be big, and you will be graded on this pretty heavily during this assignment. So we want to make sure that we understand that here especially, you want your text to line up, your text boxes to be aligned correctly. You don't want one over, further to the left than the other. We want it all to be aligned, okay? Hey, Teresa, thanks for joining us today. All right, we're just going over the CRAP principles. You can check out the recording for that part, but we're just going over examples. So again, there's different ways to align this. Now look at this bottom left example where it says visual. This is what I often see with students, that things don't quite line up the right way. The text is visually aligned to accommodate the swooping curves of the V, but we really need those text boxes to line up so nothing overlaps that imaginary vertical line. And then proximity, again, the one on the left, everything's spread out. There's no organization to it. But then once they implement the design principle of proximity, all of a sudden things are organized and read a lot better. Now they haven't broken up the address. Now they've got the name and then the contact information at the bottom. So it's not only grouped, it's aligned, but the spacing also helps us see it in chunks and not just a sporadic mess on the page. Let's look at one more example. Okay, so let's find the elements of design. Can you name something that represents contrast? See something in this example that represents contrast. Color, absolutely. They're using the dark black and the dark red on the white background. That stands out as contrast. Richard says the bold letters in the menu. Exactly. The bolder, bigger menu sections, the little subsections like salads and entrees. And notice this grouping. Notice how they have the salads grouped, and then they've got a little line dividing it. Then they've got the pastas grouped. Then they have a line, new section, entrees. Everything's kind of grouped and separated. So I want you to think about this when it comes to your menu design. Don't just format all the text in one column. I want you to group these in sections, just like you would see on a real menu, okay? But the bold letters, definitely. Bold letters and larger font size for the headers. Okay, so going with that, what else is that an example of? Because they repeat, they're using the same font, same color, same font size. What do you see there? It's repetition, right? And then alignment, everything is aligned very nicely in columns. And then proximity, like we talked about, everything is grouped together. So it's in its own little subsection. So if you want sandwiches, you know right where to go. It's very easy to read and easy to find. Okay, let's see. The critique of last week's assignment. We're gonna move over to the next one. Okay. So we're going to talk about a little bit about style sheets in a minute. Are there any questions before we move on? We're going to do a little exercise. Okay. All right, let's pull up InDesign. We're going to go into our menu design real quick, and we'll finish up style sheets. While your InDesign is loading, I did want to talk about the assessment. These are some things that you might want to know for the assessment quiz. It's the same setup. You get unlimited time to take it. I think you only get one chance to take it, so make sure you don't forget to take the assessment quiz for this class. All right. And then the discussion, let's talk about how to embed photos from the internet, okay? I'm going to open up while you guys are getting InDesign loaded up, I'm going to open up my discussion and stop the share real quick. So I had a few people ask me about how to embed photos. So we're going to go to the discussion. Week 2, does everyone kind of feel comfortable with that? I just wanted to cover it real quick. So when you're looking, so say on Google, and you find an image that represents what you're talking about, you can simply just copy this picture. So Command C if you're on a Mac, or Control C if you're on a PC, and you can hit reply, and you can just paste it right there into the discussion. So if you find it on Google Images, you can just copy and paste, or copy from a website and just paste it in if you find that. Don't forget to cite your sources. Another way of doing it is that you can save this picture on your desktop or on your computer, and then you can go back to the discussion, and you can either attach it, but to get it to display in the actual discussion feed, you want to go to, you're going to go to, I think, File or Images, and then you're going to upload a new image. So once you've uploaded that image, you can just double click it, and it will show up into the discussion. Yeah, or you could copy the image address. Excellent. So for instance, you can visit where we're pulling it from. So does that help? Does that answer your question? So you click any image to embed the image in the page. So do you guys see this? Do you have links, files, images on your home, on the class homepage? Another thing you can do is, yeah, you can right click. So here's another way you can do it, is just paste the URL in here, or you can pull it from, if you have your files, you can just pull it from here or from Flickr. But this is where you can post the URL, and you can talk about the image, give it the dimensions, and then hit update. That's another way you can do it. There's lots of different ways you can do it. You can attach it, but if you want it to show up in the feed, you can just save it, copy it, and paste it in. That's probably the easiest way. I just usually find the image I'm looking for, and I copy the image, and then I go into the feed and I paste it in. Okay, and it will display in there for you. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure who asked that question earlier, but just want to make sure that we're all clear on how to. Okay, so Teresa's saying she doesn't have those links. You have the assignments on the right side of yours. Okay, so this is probably the best way to do it, is just copy the image, copy it or download it, and then just paste it in just like that. And that probably be the easiest way to do it. You can also attach a picture. I don't necessarily think it displays in your reply, but you can also embed the image by copying and pasting the link that you're looking for, okay? The image address is what you'll need. All right, so that is how to embed images. Yes, it does, Teresa. Control V if you're on a PC, Command V if you're on a Mac. That will paste it. Yeah, those commands will become your best friend. Control, copy, cut, and paste. Copy and paste. All right, go back here. So don't forget to participate in discussion too. We want everybody in there participating. And APA review. Okay, so I had a few students struggle with this. Wanted to talk about APA review real quick. You do get graded on it. Richard, the post has not been activated to post. I'm sorry, I'm not following what you're saying. Can you reword that? Do you want me to unmute you so you can talk? You don't have to type it out. Here, I'll unmute your mic. It won't let me unmute you. Okay, so for some reason it won't let me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can. Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah, no, what I was saying was the on the discussion area
Yeah.
where we're supposed to click reply to post our reply, it's not up there this time. It just has all of your posts.
That is good to know. I've never seen that before. I will go in, hopefully, I'll go in and look at it, and there might be a setting that didn't get set up, or I might have to reach out to somebody to fix that for the class. So thank you for telling me. I will, I'll go in and look at it tonight, and then I'll email you guys.
Okay, I can give you a quick share screen to show you.
No, you're fine. I'm actually getting that from a few people saying that it's not there, and that usually means there's something in the back end of the website that's not showing up. So I will need
Okay.
to. Yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll email the class. I'll email the dean and see if they can get someone to take a look at that. Allow threaded replies. Let's see. Do you see it now? Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me save it. Tell me if you see it now. Just refresh your screen. There isn't a reply for my posts. Because I see a reply for my posts. Do you see it, Richard?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so now it's up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I apologize for that. I'm not quite sure why. I've never seen that before, but it was just, I guess, whoever set up the class forgot to set that up too. So, okay, Teresa, if you just refresh your page, it should be up there. Richard sees it and I see it now. So replies are there. So I do apologize, okay? What I'll do, since it was giving everyone a problem, there won't be any late points if you can't get your initial post in by Wednesday. I'll waive that this week, okay? I just want to make sure you guys get it in. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Oops. All right, so now that we've got that underway, I wanted to talk about APA. So you do get graded for this. You don't lose too many points for it, but I just wanted to show you how you can go organize this. If you're not familiar with APA, you can go see the Student Success Center, or there is something called an APA free generator. You can go online. I'll probably get in trouble for showing you this. But you go online and you just click on free APA citation generator. And then what this does is it formats it for you. So if you're pulling something from a website, so I'll just copy this address real quick and just make sure you're on a website, or if you're pulling something from a book or a journal, there's other options here on this. So if it's artwork, so if you're posting a picture, you'll need to cite that as well. Anyways, whatever it is, you'll put it in this column. Make sure you select the right category. And in this case, I'll just, we'll hit search. We'll see if it can find the website. And then you'll hit continue, because what it's doing is saying, this is what we found. Is this right? and then you'll hit complete citation. You're just checking to see if the information's all correct. I'm going to start a new one. I don't know, this one's being weird. Anyways, do you see that citation there at the bottom? Let's see if it'll let me. Okay, anyways, you get the idea. So just look for a free APA generator, and that will help you cite your sources the correct way so you can get the points. And do you have any questions about that? That should hopefully make things a little easier. For some reason, that website was giving me trouble. I'm not quite sure why. Okay, so it's design time, and we're going to be taking our 10-minute break in about 20 minutes, but I just want to make sure we get into the design portion of this before we run out of time. But that's an easy way to go find your generator. All right, so with InDesign pulled up, we are going to learn how to design the inside of our menu cover, or our menu. So we've already designed the cover, and now we're going to jump into how to place content, how to format it. So first thing I want to point out here, I'm going to be looking when it comes to grading. I grab my handy pencil tool here, and I'm going to circle things in bold red that you can see. Okay. So first thing I see right here, I'm going to be grading on is what we call dot leaders. Dot leaders, and I'll zoom in here. Let me lower that. So are these little dots that lead to your price. They're called dot leaders. And there's going to be a price for every menu item on your document. So what I want you to do is open up your text, the Word document that was given to you in the download folder of the restaurant you chose. So, and I want you to look at the price, because we're going to learn, I want you to pull in that content, because we're going to learn how to set up our dot leaders. It's more than just hitting the period, space, 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 200 times for each menu item. That's just ridiculous. There's an easier way to do it, and it will align your items correctly, because the problem is if you don't use a dot leader, you're going to have misalignment, and you will get graded and docked points for that. And I really don't want that to be the case. Plus, you're a professional designer, and so we're going to do things the right way, and we're going to learn how to format correctly. Okay? So leaders are a great tool for guiding the reader's eye. That's why I encourage you to use them. This takes you across the page. It also adds as a design element too. It adds something to break up the mundane text. Good question. If you hit escape on your keyboard, that should minimize the Zoom page. We had a question asking how to get two screens to show at the same time. So if you hit escape, that should minimize the bigger screen. Did that work, Teresa? Yeah, we don't want to have to go back and forth. That's no fun. Okay, perfect. So that should work. Those of you who are watching at home, if you just see your Zoom screen and you're going to want to follow along with the design tutorial, you'll definitely want to make sure you have two screens side by side. And I'll go slow and repeat this demo for you. I'll also post the list of instructions under the announcement section of the course homepage so that you have the step-by-step instructions as well. But going back to leaders, leaders are these lines that connect one column to another. A dot leader is one of the more common types of leaders because it's less obtrusive than a solid line. So you could create a dot leader by pressing the period key repetitively until you got the correct length. And in fact, I've had students do that. However, getting the columns to line up perfectly are going to be very difficult. Things don't just line up naturally. You have to calculate it, and you have to tell InDesign that you want it calculated. So your leader would not change if you're, so basically what happens if you make an adjustment to the price or to the spacing, your leader will adjust it for you. Whereas if you do it manually, you're going to have to go fix it every time, and it's just going to be very annoying and be a complete waste of time. So if you want to do things quick and fast, learn how to do these dot leaders, okay? I'm saving you a ton of time, I'm telling you. It's kind of a game changer. But a better way to use InDesign's tab panel is to add leaders of any character to this tab stop. So what I'm going to show you right here, we're just going to do a little example. So I did a little example here, so I'm going to just back up. All right, I'll zoom in. So what you're going to do is grab an InDesign document. You just open anything up and you're going to grab your type tool. We're going to start with the type tool. You're welcome to copy and paste your menu items and your pricing in here if you'd like. For this example, I'm just going to type out the menu item 1, menu item 2, menu item 3. Okay, so we're going to pretend that these are our menu items and the numbers are our pricing, okay? And we want to make sure that they line up correctly. So the way that we're going to do that is step 1 is to select the text if you are adding the leader to the text that's already typed. So basically, I'm just going to have my little cursor blinking right here. Okay, let's see. Let's highlight it. Okay, otherwise, position the cursor at the beginning of the text frame. That's another way that you can do it. But I'm going to go to the top here to type, my InDesign drop-down menu, type. Then I'm going to scroll down here till I see tabs. Kind of at the top there. See that tabs panel? The tabs panel will pop up and you're going to click inside the leader text box right here, and you're going to tell it what leader you're going to give it, which is a period. So type period, a period, so you see mine right there, or any other character for your leader, but we're going to stay traditional and use the period. You can then click in the area directly above the tab ruler to set the tab. So right here, this little line here, we're going to say where it's going to start. So I'd like it to start right here, right after. Right there, okay? And then you can position the cursor prior to the tab stop with the leader, but then you can just hit the tab key, all right? And then I'm going to go to type, make sure tabs is on. Oops, that's not where I want it. I want it right here, after item. So I'm going to back up. Sorry, I placed it the wrong place. Okay, I want it after the menu item. So I'm going to move this over. So we've got our leader, and then I'm going to position this cursor right here. Right there. All right. So are you guys at that point? So and then you want to make sure it's on right justified tab, or you can do left justified tab, whichever one you want to do. I like doing it on the right justified. Oops. All right, so did you guys follow that? Go to type, tabs. So what happens is if you manually do it, it's not going to line up correctly. So as I'm hitting, oops, as I hit tab, you'll see things are going to line up like this. Okay. And I've got multiple tabs. Another thing, okay, so once you're at this place, whoa, my screen is going crazy. Then you're going to go to, there's a little options menu here. You're going to go to, here we go to repeat tab, and then it should let you hit tab. Okay, and you got to kind of have to set it up so I'm going to go here. I'm going to enter in my leader. So did everyone see how to do that? And then I just used my eyedropper tool to highlight the other menu items, so I don't have to manually go in and set that up every time. So did you guys follow that? I'm going to put the instructions inside the chat box for you. If you want to read them So I'll back up and I'll do that one more time because it's kind of confusing. Back up. All right. So we're going to close out of here. We're going to start from scratch. All right, so you're going to copy and paste your type inside your text box. You're going to go to Type, Tabs, the drop-down menu. And here's where you're going to set your leader. You're going to type in a period in the leader box, and then you're going to click on your ruler where you want the leader to start. And I want it after my menu item. Once you have that selected, see it's highlighted in blue, you're going to go over to the far right where there's these triple line icon here. This means there's more options, and you're going to click on Repeat Tab. By clicking on that, that will allow it to continually repeat every unit of measurement, okay? And then you're going to also make sure this is on Right Justified. And then when you hit the Tab button, it will automatically tab your number over, okay? And then with same thing, I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to select with my eyedropper tool and just highlight the price. And what this is going to do is copy the formatting that I already set up for my other menu items. Are there any questions with how to set up a tab leader? Okay, Teresa, go ahead and share your screen, and I guarantee you there's going to be people at home watching that are having trouble too, so this might help them. If you'll click on share screen, I'll step you through it. Perfect, so put your cursor right after the menu item, okay, and then what you want to do, can you zoom in a little bit? There we go. And then position your tab box over your text box, just so that you can kind of see with the ruler. Take off a line, that period that you have typed in a line on, delete that. Okay, and then go to your right justified arrow. I think it's the third one over. Yeah, there you go. And then you want to click on the line above the ruler. There's a gray line above the ruler right there. So click. And what that does is it's setting the point where you're going to start your tab, okay? Now go over to the right and click on those three lines. Do you see that? Under the red X, there's a little icon. It's usually more options. And then click on Repeat Tab. Very good. And now hit the Tab button on your keyboard. Or I'm sorry, click into the text box where your cursor is. Now hit Tab. Oop. You can just hit the backspace. There you go. There you go. So there's your tab button. So now let's make sure that we can copy the formatting to the other items. So highlight menu item 2 and 3. Okay, and then you're going to go grab your eyedropper tool. There you go. And click on number 1. Hit Command Z. Hit Command Z. Okay, now hold down the Option button, the Alt button on your keyboard before you click number 1. And that's going to copy the properties that you just set. Oh, are you holding it down? Here, Command Z one more time. And highlight number 2 with it. Oh, you don't need to switch tools. You can highlight with the eyedropper tool as well. Okay, now hold down the Alt Option button before you click. Okay, now grab your type tool and select, put your cursor where you want it to start. and hit tab. There you go. And hit tab until they line up. Perfect. And number 3. So does that help, Teresa? It seems like you kind of got it down. So that's an easier way of kind of setting it up. You've already copied the properties on there, so you won't need to use the eyedropper tool every time. Just kind of tap it over. Perfect. All right. So that is how you get things to line up. Any other questions? That's a great question. Okay, so what we're going to learn next, now that you learned how to do leaders, is how to set up paragraph styles. But I also just looked at the clock, and so we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. I'm going to let that sink in a little bit and let you practice how to set up dot leaders. Then we're going to go into paragraph styles, and this is going to make a little bit more sense because what Teresa was doing was following my instructions where you'd have to copy each one and copy the properties for each one. And when you're working with 100 menu items, that's going to get a little tedious and a little ridiculous and time consuming, especially when you're working on this project and you don't have a lot of time because you have other classes to design for. So what I'm going to teach you to do is to copy the properties. So with one click, you can just have this all set up, okay? And then you can apply it to any other part in the text box that you need it. So we won't have to keep switching tools and highlighting and clicking with the eyedropper tool. So I showed you kind of a long way to do it, and now I'll show you a quick way to do it, all right? But we'll tackle paragraph styles and character styles in just a moment. But are there any questions before we go to break? Okay, if not, we're going to go ahead and have our break. When we come back, have your InDesign up, and we are going to start laying out the interior page of our menu. So what I recommend is pull the text from your menu design. So if you're working on the Walk and Roll or the Maxwell Steak or the Starlight Bistro, whichever restaurant you chose, pull the content down, because in that downloads folder, there's a whole document of menu items and pricing. And we're going to format that so that it's all easy to read and it's formatted correctly, and I'm going to teach you how to set up paragraph styles to make this go faster for you. All right, we'll see you guys in 10 minutes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and begin with our menu design demo. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and go back into InDesign. So we talked a little earlier about dot leaders. Are there any questions on how to set those up? Okay, Debbie, I think you had missed the demo. I think you were signed out. So I'll go over it real quick. You'll have your menu items and you'll go up to type, click on tabs, and it'll bring up this tab dialog box or this tab panel. You're going to make sure you put a period in the leader box, and then you're going to click on this gray bar right underneath it and tell the cursor where you want the leader to start. Then you're going to go over here to your options and click repeat tab. All right, so that will allow you to hit tab and then have everything kind of tab over. Got it? Okay, cool. All right, so, and then plus I just put in the text chat box the steps that you can follow if you need. I'll retype them, so if you get stuck. There you go. There's the step-by-step on where to go find them. Okay, so I just demoed with Teresa earlier that in order to make sure that everything gets copied correctly, you would have to highlight each one and use the eyedropper tool to copy the settings and make sure that they're all set up, right? And that's not what we want to do. So what we want to do is be able to highlight this setting right here and apply it each time we have a menu item that we want to create a dot leader for. So what we're going to do is learn about what paragraph styles are. And this is a little complicated to kind of grasp, so I really want to make sure we're going to go slow on this one. So I'm going to talk about how to use style sheets. Have you heard of style sheets before? Have you been introduced to them? Style sheets are very helpful time-saving tools that make formatting text a lot easier. So this will be our first introduction to them. Formatting text in your documents is huge, especially when this is your menu design and you're supposed to format your text. So there's two different ways to there's two different style sheets that you can set up. One is a paragraph style sheet, one is a character style sheet. And these allow you to define specific attributes one time, and then you can apply those attributes again and again just with a click of one button, which is really handy when you're working with a menu that has like 20 menu items. This is especially helpful when you have multiple page documents with a lot of text. Okay, then, so the question is, how do I use them? So here's how. Starting with paragraph styles, you're going to open them from your window drop-down menu. So click on window, click on type in tables. Click on styles. I'm going to the wrong one. So window, styles, and then you're going to pull up your paragraph styles box. We'll start with paragraph styles. And here's your paragraph styles panel. And you'll notice that there's quite a few styles within, and I've labeled them. So this is going to be my subheader formatting. This is going to be my menu descriptions. So what happens is when I pull, let me grab a type box here. I'm going to pull this in. I'm going to grab some text from the walk and roll Word doc. So just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to grab two of these here. I'm going to just copy and paste this information here. And you'll notice as I've already pasted, it's already grabbing from a paragraph style I set up a long time ago. It's pulling from menu descriptions. And I'm going to highlight the menu item because I want it to look like the ones on the left. I want to make it stand out. So I've already, let's see, subheader, nope, that's the wrong one. Let's see, menu item, there we go, menu item. And I can even copy the dot leader formatting and apply that to my menu items, okay? Now, once you have a menu item set, you can, or your dot leaders set, you can apply that into your menu design. So for instance, I can highlight this, and then I can add, under my paragraph styles, add a new paragraph style. I'm going to double click it. Oops. Double click paragraph style 1, and this is going to be my dot leaders. Then you can go in and set it all up. So I want it right aligned. I want it to start here. The leader is going to be a dot, or I'm sorry, period. I'm going to have it start here. I want it to repeat, and then hit repeat, and then I'll hit OK. All right. So now it's all set up. So now if I were to pull in, oops, let me bring this in. So if I were trying to format my menu item right here, I'm going to click here and click on dot leaders. All right, and that's going to allow me to create my dot leaders. All right, so with one click of a button, I was able to format my dot leaders. Now you'll want to format it a little differently so it can extend to the entire page, but you get the idea. All right, so let's set that up in my menu design. So here I've got my menu items, but I want to be able to make an adjustment on it. So what I'm going to do is go into tabs, and I'm going to set it all up again because it didn't save. I was on a different document. Right tab, I'm going to hit leader. I'm going to make sure that my thing goes all the way over here. I'm going to hit repeat. I'm going to hit repeat and hit tab, and then I'll hit OK. Oops. Oh, I set it up wrong. Go back to tabs. All right, and notice how I drag on the ruler. It's showing me where I'm placing my leader. So I'm going to clear it all, and I'm going to click and hold and kind of drag my cursor to where I want it to start, okay? I'll hit tab it over, hit repeat, menu items with dot leader. And you'll notice because I went into that menu items and made a change, you'll see this plus sign. What this does is it indicates that a change has been made within there, and you'll often find that if you go in to an item and make a change and it's already been formatted with a paragraph style, it's going to apply that change to that paragraph style. So we have to be very careful to either, basically you have to make sure you want that change to apply to everything. Okay, so now it's tabbing over, and I'm not sure why it's doing that in such large leader. Let me back up. But anyways, you get the idea, right? So I want you to get used to setting up paragraph styles. Another thing that I can set up is if I want to go in and change my menu description. Hang on, my computer is freezing. I can't click on anything. Why is it being silly? There we go. Okay, so if I want to change the menu description, say I think it's a little too light gray, I'll go into the menu description paragraph style, and I'll go over to character color, and I'll adjust the color of the black. So maybe I want it to be a little bit darker. So I want it at 70% now. So now it's much darker. So now if I want to copy this, I'll hit menu description to make sure that copies over. And basically what happened by making that one change, it went and applied it to each paragraph that I had that paragraph style applied to. So I don't have to go fix these other ones. It already darkened the font. See, if I click undo, now watch what happens if I click redo. It darkened all of it. So I only need to make one change to one section that used that particular paragraph style, and it will apply it to my entire document. That is huge, and it's a huge time saver. So paragraph styles apply formatting to entire paragraphs of text. That's the difference. So to create a paragraph style, we talked about opening up the paragraph styles window and selecting the new paragraph style from the plot. You can even do a custom one by creating a new one, create a new style right there. It's located at the bottom right corner on my panel. And a window appears that allows you to customize your paragraph style. So if I want to do a completely new one, then this is where I will go. And basically all your information is here on the left. So you can click these categories depending on what you want. There's quite a few to go in and change. So don't let that overwhelm you a little bit. But just notice if you wanted to make anything, adjustments to the character color, this is where you would do it. But if you want to make change to the character size and the font family, you would do that in your character styles. So after you have your new paragraph style set up, simply click on any of these options and define the attributes to your liking. It is recommended that you name your paragraph style sheet something specific that relates to what it will be used for in your document, such as body copy or captions, just so that you know what, you know where you're at. So this one would be menu header or whatever it would be. So then hit OK. And then we talked about if you see a plus sign next to it, that means you made a change in there and it went and applied it to everything. So that can also get a little confusing. Just make sure you're making changes that you want applied to all your documents. If you need to change a paragraph style after it's been created, be sure that no text boxes are selected, because then it will go in and make that change for you. Good question. My font size here, I'm using a contrasting font of Minion Pro. I'm using a bold size 12. And then the body copy, I'm using Helvetica, which is a sans serif font, size 8. So I wouldn't go much larger than 12-point font on your menu items and not much smaller than your 8-point font. It does need to be a minimum of 8-point font to be legible. Also wanted to show you too how I've got this lined up. So that is paragraph style. So if you, like I said, if you need to change your paragraph style after it's already been created, make sure that no text boxes are selected. And then you can, so I'm going to deselect off this page. Whoops. Click off this page. And then I can go in and make the adjustment. If I have a text box selected or my cursor is inside a text box, it will start making changes to the entire document. So you really need to make sure that nothing is selected. Just click off in the gray area, and then that will deselect everything. Let's talk about character styles. So character styles are set up the exact same way. They are just used for your font, your text. So if you go to Styles and click on Character Styles, my Character Styles panel will pop up. And I don't have any set up at the moment, but what I can do is I can highlight this and I can click New Character Style. And what this does is if I go into the character color, it already has red set. Let's see, advanced character, basic character formats. Okay, so it's already copied there's the font, there's the font size I'm using for that little menu header up there, and then I'll just name it. This will be the menu header, and then I'll hit OK. So now I've got that menu header set up in that character style. So now say I want this for some reason I want this text to be in the menu header. I just click menu header, and now it changes it to the properties that I had already set up. Okay, so that's kind of cool how we can set it up that way. You would open up the character styles window, select a new character style, you'll double click it to rename it, and then you can just, using the features on the left, you'll use this menu and kind of make your style, customize it. All right, and then you'll notice that the window that appears gives you fewer options on the left than the paragraph style window does. Because character styles are only meant to apply to single words or phrases, you don't really have control over things like hyphenation or indents and spacing like you do in the paragraph style. So that's the only difference. It is recommended that you name your character style sheet something specific that relates to what it's going to be used for, so that you are aware of how to identify it. And again, it's the same thing. If you need to change your character style after you created, make sure nothing's selected. Just deselect there in that gray box. Then you can make the change. All right. Are there any questions on how to set up character styles and paragraph styles? These are style sheets. That's what they're called. And what that does is it makes everything consistent. So you'll notice I'm using the same font and same font size for all the menu items and pricing, all the same font and font size for a different font and font size for the menu description. I'm using a different font size for the menu header, but that adds a little bit of contrast, but yet there's unity because each one has its own, it's the same and it's repeating throughout, and that's creating unity with the piece. All right. Okay, so that's the boring part. Let's get to the fun part, the actual designing part. So what you need to do for your, I'm going to go to the assignment 2 so that we can make sure we're going through the instructions correctly. You'll open up your menu cover file wherever you designed, and you're going to rename it something. So pretend this is my cover design. All right, I designed a cover. Woohoo! I made all the changes that Mrs. Woodland suggested, and now it's ready to move on to assignment 2. So I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to save as something completely different. That pulls up. My computer just lags when I have Zoom open, so I apologize. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to save it as DES105, assignment 2, first, last name. You're going to save it where you'll remember it. Then you're going to choose the strongest of the 2 cover designs, and then you're just going to delete the second option, okay? So you'll delete the second option. Just make sure you saved it before. So, so say this is the cover I'm going with. It's ready to go, and now all I need to do is design the interior page of my menu. There's different ways that you can do it. I'm going to show you how to kind of, the one thing that I think students struggle with is when they put in their text, it's almost like they are hurting for space, meaning there's fewer menu items and too much white space. So I'm going to show you ways that you can kind of fill that space tastefully. So here's one idea. You can do a double column with the text boxes. So see how everything's aligned correctly. Double column usually means if you have too many menu items that you're trying to fit in, you could double column. If you don't have enough and you're hurting for content, meaning you need more content, I just suggest a 1 column here, or a 2 column page, but you can set up the 2 columns like this instead of having 2 columns within that column. So this is what I've got set up. So once you've deleted the second page of the cover that you did not choose to use, you're going to make revisions, make the changes, then you're going to add this new page, which is an interior page. We only want this to be a 2-page layout. So don't go into page 3 or page 4. We don't need that. You're going to create a menu layout for the restaurant on the new page, and I want you to utilize all the text that's given to you in that Word document. I'll go ahead and pull up. Yeah, you've got the document pulled up. You need to use a minimum of 2 photos on the inside page, and then you need to set up paragraph style sheets, character style sheets, and custom color swatches, which we went over in week 1. So if you didn't catch that, go back and watch how to do that. Then you also need to set up tabs with leaders. You won't be adding to the menu covers at all. You're only going to be making the changes that I suggested during week 1 for your menu cover, and then you're going to pick the strongest one and then delete the second one. Does that make sense? So you're not adding anything to your menu covers other than using the feedback that I gave you during week 1. Yeah, and Debbie's asking how to create a new page, so that's a great question. So you have your Pages panel open. If you don't see that, you can find it under your window drop-down menu. Everything is alphabetical here, so just scroll down to Pages, click on Pages, and that pulls up this Pages panel. And you'll see down here, I've got about 5 pages, but I'll go ahead and get rid of these ones. And say I want I'm going to add page 4. So I'm just going to click on this icon, Create New Page, and that will create as many pages as I want. I can also delete pages, but I don't recommend doing that unless you're very sure you want to delete that. So another question coming in. So this is a whole document, and it's not going to include the cover. Whole document Yes. So let me start off. So pretend this is the page. This is the cover I designed. All right. And page 2 is the second cover I designed. Just pretend this is the second cover. So this is assignment 1. I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to name it DES105 assignment 2. I'm going to give it a different name. Hit save. I'm going to delete the second menu cover, so I only have one menu cover, and then I'm going to add a new page so that I've got my inside menu. So you should only have 2 pages total. I've got 3 right now because I'm doing demos on it, but you should only have 2 pages. So yeah, this is your whole document. You've got 1 cover design and 1 inside menu page. Does that make sense? You don't have to redesign anything. You're just saving over the old file that you designed in week 1. You're just naming it assignment 2. Good question. Any other questions? I don't want to move too fast. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. You're going to apply the CRAP principles that we talked about. I want you to be able to identify repetition and proximity. I'm grouping things here. Notice my proximity appetizers are all in one. Soup and salads is one. With the walk and roll, you can kind of create your own categories, I guess. Let's look and see. They've got rolls. Actually, you don't need to create your own categories. They have rolls. They have sashimi, and then they've got beverages, and then they've got the walk. So they've got the categories already. Yes, that's right. So you're going to have both menu covers in your assignment 1. You're going to save it as assignment 2, and you're going to delete one of them. You're going to make the changes I suggested. Pick your strongest one. Yeah, exactly. So 1 cover, then 1 inside page. That's all you'll need. And please note that this text is already supplied for you, so you don't have to come up with it. But you do need to use all of it. Please do not add to it. No ad-libbing, if you can help it. Here's a simple way to import your text if you want. You can click on, let me get a new page set up. So I'm going to W on my keyboard. I'm going to drag and draw a column of 2 column of text. So I'm going to do 2 columns here. I'm going to make sure my smart guides are turned on so that everything lines up, okay? And I want to look for proper spacing, even amount of spacing between your text boxes on the left side, the top, the bottom, and the right side. And if they are not properly lined up, then we need to fix that, okay? All right, so now that I've drawn 2 text boxes, I'm going to grab my type tool and click inside. You see how that cursor is blinking? And you'll notice how there is these little white anchor points on the first text box. Down here at the bottom, if you click the biggest anchor point, not the corner one, but the one on top, if you click it, you'll notice how your mouse changes, almost like there's hidden text. And click anywhere on your second text box. And what you've done is you've just linked those text boxes. So whatever content you flow into one will flow into the other. So now you can grab your type tool, let the cursor blink. You can go to File, Place, and this is where you can find your text, okay? Find the Word document. I have no idea where I saved it, so it might be in my downloads. Anyways, you find it and hit open, and that's going to flow all your text in there, okay? I'll just fill with placeholder text. So pretend this is how it got filled in. So the nice thing is you've already linked to these text boxes. So if you make adjustments to one, you'll make adjustments to others. So now look, as I've put in this text, and I've already set up my paragraph styles, but they're all formatted to my body text, and I don't want that. I want to be able to have categories and things. So I'm going to grab my paragraph styles. So I'll go to Window, Styles, click on Paragraph Styles. And here, now that I've got it all set up, I've just adjusted it one time. Now I can go in and highlight what I need. So this would be the menu with the dot leaders, like that. And this is where I can use my eyedropper tool. You can use your eyedropper tool, or you can click on menu item with like that. So I'm just going to click on my, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I've already set up my, see how fast that was too? Oh, and I forgot this little guy. I'm going to click on menu items with dot leaders. Whoop. Kind of hit tab. Now I've got this little subsection here that I can format, and I can maybe it's, oh, not menu description. Let's do, you know what? I don't know if I saved this style. That I might have to go in and make one. But anyways, I can go and style that, or I can create a banner. But that is how you format these. So if I wanted to hit tab again and have the prices go all the way to the edge of the page, that's an idea. So that's kind of why we set up styles, to make it really fast. So you can just click with one click of the button, it's all set up. All right, and then you can place pictures. We all know how to place pictures. So then we can grab some photos. Yeah, it can go all the way to the right if you want. I prefer it to go all the way to the right. Let me zoom in. Can go all the way to the right. For some reason, my tab leaders aren't displaying. Oops. Highlight this. Okay. All right. Anyways, you get the idea. No, it's not displaying right. There we go. It can go all the way to the right, and I prefer to do that. There we go. For some reason, this is giving me a lot of trouble, and I'm not sure why it's doing. I'll have to go troubleshoot it. Anyways, yeah, they'll go all the way to the right, and then you'll kind of have to format it. So if you'll notice here, some of these words get cut off. So you'll need to bring up, finish the sentence, give the spacing. You're kind of acting as an editor now, so you kind of have to go in. This might be something that you want to highlight. I'm not sure. Oops. I'll have to set up a, see, so in this case, I need a new paragraph style. So I'm going to click a new one, and I'm going to set it up. Basic character formats. You can do a lot in just the paragraph styles if you wanted to, but you do have to have both of them up, both style sheets. In this case, I'm going to do oblique, and I'm going to change the color to red so it can stand out. I'm going to add a little contrast there. I'll hit OK. And I broke my own rule. I forgot to deselect when I was styling it. So I'm going to go to paragraph style 4. I'm going to go back. My character color, I'm going to make it red. Basic character formats, I want it to be oblique. Just like that. Hit OK. And I'm going to make this menu description. And I'm going to give a return. And then I get to change this. There we go. All right, so now that kind of adding contrast, I'm trying to set that apart because that's $1 extra if I want shrimp. So I want to make sure that stands out, that the reader sees that. Okay, let's see. To place pictures, we know how to place pictures, right? You grab your rectangle frame tool, you click and drag. Now, it is hard to see when you're designing where things are aligning, but if you look here, if I were to take a ruler off the side of my screen here, click and drag that ruler. See how I bring that ruler in? You'll notice that there's a gap. There's also some overlap here. So this picture is, the picture frame is not lining up with my ruler. So I've also got layers set up, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Let me open my layers so I can move it. So I'm gonna find which layer it's on. Okay. All right, so now I've got my boxes that I can line up correctly with my ruler. I'm just gonna grab the edge and make sure it's all lined up, okay? Now you can go to, with your rectangle frame tool, you can go to File, Place, and then find the picture that you're trying to place inside of it, okay? Then you hit Open and it will place it in there. So let's start. I'll start on a new page right here. Close out of these paragraph styles for just a minute. Okay, so how do we set up the menu document? Okay, so it's already all the sizing specs is all the same from assignment 1 because you're resizing over that. You're going to want to make sure that you're starting with a blank slate here on page 2. You can create layers to organize your layout like this, where you've got a picture, a text layer, a pictures layer, and just make sure you're on the right one. So in this case, I did not put my text on the right layer. So I'll make sure that, there we go. So now it's on the right layer. So step 1 would be to open up your layers panel and start labeling layers. So this will be text, this is going to be pictures. Layer 3 can be logo. Hit OK, you can lock that one. Layer 4 can be the hours, or can be the border. You'll probably want a borders layer because this is where we're going to be putting all our border information. And then you can select new layer if you need a new one, or delete one if you need to delete one. Go back to week 1 for a little tutorial on how to do that. But the final third new layer should be like font or typography or text or something like that. Okay, how to build a border on your menu. Here I've already got one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to override. I've set this up on a master page, but I'm going to override it so we can start fresh. So if you remember from week 1, I showed you how to set up frames. So if you grab your rectangle tool, and I'm going to use my magenta margin line to guide me and be my placeholder for this. I'm going to place it. And now I've got a frame here, so I'm going to zoom in so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to change this to black because I don't want any red. And then I also want the size to be about 1 point. I don't want it to be too crazy. I'll go to my window and click on stroke. And I've got my stroke box here. I've got a lot of panels open, so I'll close it out so we can focus on one at a time. Here's where I can gauge the weight. So I'll do about a 2-point font. The type, I can pick whatever I want. I'm going to select white diamond. It just seems to be a nice divider. And then that should be all I need for this. So I'll hit OK, click off the page. If you need to take a step back and see what it looks like, you can hit W on your keyboard to toggle between preview mode and your workspace mode. So I've already got the frame laid out, so I'll step back and hit W so you can see what this looks like. Okay. All right, and then I need to go all the way back down to my margin line here. That's kind of acting as my ruler. And then to add a little bit of decoration, I'm just going to grab a rectangle tool here, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to give it a fill. I'm going to give it red because in my logo, my walk and roll logo is going to be red and black. So I'm going to just draw a little bit on the edge, and I'm going to delete this because that's not my logo. Let me see if I can go grab my logo. Here it is. So then here at the top, and remember, your logo does not need to be the star of the show for this. It's just to add a little design element. It doesn't even have to really be on the inside page if you don't want it to be. I just like it, and I like the color in it. Mine has a nice color, so I'm going to keep it, and I'm keep it very small. Notice how I'm keeping it small. Also notice I'm using a white background. Why? Because I have a lot of text, and it's hard to read text that small on a busy background. So I would encourage you to follow this example if you could, to stick with a white background and to keep it clean. Doesn't matter if you're designing for a bistro or for a fancy steakhouse or for this Chinese restaurant, you're going to want a clean background. Keep your design and color and all of that for the front, the cover, So I encourage you to use a white background and not feel the need to put a picture on the back or color, because it's going to be hard to read. Yeah, you can use whatever you want. You're the designer. I'm just showing you different ways. So instead of white diamond, if you wanted, I can set it up to be the double line. Let me go here. Like that. And because it's so small, it's hard to see. So I can kind of increase that. Do you see that? So you're going to want to pick one that's kind of conducive to the restaurant type that you're designing for. But the double line is nice. I can even do a thin. They have thick, thick, and thin, thin. So I like that. All right. And then the next thing I need to do is use my ruler to kind of find the center of the page. And I think that's the center of the page. If your smart guides are turned on, you'll be able to see it. I'm just going to make that the center. Use your ruler. And then you're going to grab your text. Remember how we set up our text boxes? Before you do the text box, though, you could even do a divider line if you wanted to do a 2-column layout. You can do 1 column. It's harder, I think, to fill space. I think this divides the content a little bit nicer. Again, I'm going to change this to black stroke. I'm going to change this to 2-point font, and I'm going to change this to a solid line. Or you can do the diamond like in my other example. I'm even to make this stroke a little smaller because, again, it's just dividing my text, so I don't want it too thick. All right, there's my dividing line. Let's see, now you can draw those text boxes. So I'll show you once again how to get those laid out. Copy 2 text boxes, get them lined up. See how my smart guides are lining these up for me? Make sure you're, oops, okay, I'm going to center this. I'm looking to put this in the dead center so that I can make sure everything is aligned properly. All right, I've got my text boxes, I've got that divider line. Okay, so on my example, you can also add banners. So another way to do that to fill space and add some design element to it is I sent in week 1 a couple of fonts to download. One is adhesive NR, I think, and you go to type glyphs, and then, yeah, there we go. There's a banner that you can select. So I think it's adhesive NR7. Yeah. So just download that font, that email that I sent earlier, or you can go to adhesive NR7. I will paste it here so you can it's a free font that you can find. And they have a whole slew of different kinds of banners. So in this case, I picked a banner that I like. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to change the color to black. I'm also going to increase the size. And so this can also divide my menu items. And I'm going to go to type create outlines because I want to create a vector. I don't want it to be a text. I want it to be editable. So this is where I can place my banner. This could be part of my design element. I can even place it over a photo. Like this. Because you're working with photos that have, some have a background, some have a white background, you're going to want to make sure that I'm going to send this to the back. You kind of try to make them as uniform as possible. So here's where I can start creating sections, or I can have this become a little larger. And then that's where I can put, this is the walk, and then I can start placing my text underneath the page. But what I want to see is I want to see that our pictures and our text boxes align, okay? So grab that ruler, drag it over, and make sure that your photo extends. So that's one way that you can create some interest, some visual interest there. And I'm going to make sure my photo extends to the edge of this on the right side of my text box, like that. You can even double click in the photo and kind of move the photo up or down to kind of get it positioned just right. So that's one way to do it. And as you can see here, you can put the banner on the, be careful not to make the banner so big that it covers the picture. You can put a little description on the bottom. This is a very easy way to add some character to your page. Are there any questions so far? So another thing that you can do to add division is you can, so say here I've got my menu laid out and I want to divide the wok menu items from the sushi rolls. You can either put them in two different columns, or I can move this. See, I'm going to put this on the right side. Hang on, it's giving me some trouble. So what I can do is I can move this picture up, or hold on, there it is. Or I can align it underneath, and then just say I have a ton of these menu items and I want to divide the next section. What I can do is put a return here, grab my line tool, and I can draw a line from edge to edge. It can be a colored bar. It can be just a simple stroke. I'm going to copy for repetition. I'm going to copy the same formatting as my column divider. I could also give it a different color so it stands out like that. And you might have different sections. So say those are your menu items. They're being divided by that red line there. So your menu can look different depending on what it is, but try to keep, I want to see all of your menu items and pricing the same size and weight, same font. I want your smaller text to be clean fonts. So if you're going to pick a serif font or a sans serif font, here is not the time to be grabbing fancy fonts and using them because they look cool and fancy. I want you to use clean traditional fonts here, because this is going to be hard to read as it is. It's just not a good place for it. All right, so I'm getting a question. You're going to try to start. So I used rectangle tool, box tool, and your background color from the menu cover went on your second page. Okay, so would you mind sharing your screen and I can look at it for you? Can you just delete it? Do you want to delete it? Is that what you're... Here, let me turn on your mic. Sorry. Give me just a second. Okay, Teresa, go ahead and talk. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I can. Did you want to delete it? Is that what you're asking?
Well, you didn't want us to have a background color, so yeah, I did. And on my layers, I had to unlock them.
Yeah.
To anything for my second page. And whenever I drew this box, I was going to try to put a border like you were doing, and this is what happened.
Got it. Okay, so basically it just remembers what you did last time you drew a rectangle.
I was going to ask, how do I separate that from cover photo to menu page? Menu cover to the menu page.
Got it. All it does is it just remembers what the last thing you did was. So when you change it, it's going to remember that last thing. So all you have to do is select none for the fill. So there's two places under the bottom of the toolbar, or you can go to the top there with the fill box, either one. See your gradient up there at the top. I'm sorry, right there, yeah. You click that arrow and then select none.
Oh, okay.
And then make sure your stroke is in the foreground, so click on your stroke. You can do it right there in that panel. Yeah, now bring it to front, perfect. So now that it's in front, any changes you make will apply to your stroke.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, I highly recommend starting off with a clean background. One, it's just easier and faster. You don't have to worry about putting graphics on there because your cover is kind of the star of the show. It's the highlight. It's what's going to draw the attention. So we're just going to now use our images and our text, and we want it to be as clean as possible. Okay, Teresa, does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Awesome, no problem. Yeah, anything else, please feel free to ask. Now's the time before we set you guys loose. Let me go back to InDesign. Let me see if there's any other element that I forgot to mention. Pick a nice fresh color that goes with the logo. Feel free to experiment with the color of the font, so you can make it interesting. But again, you don't have to make it too busy. Use your glyphs if you want to add some character. Use your frames if you want to add some extra design elements. You can add a little box here at the bottom. You can there's a lot you can do. So I want you to get creative and use your minds and try to come up with something. If you feel more comfortable kind of copying this layout, that's fine. If you want to do something on your own, that's fine too. Just make sure you hit all the marks on the rubric and what's required of you. Come in on Thursday if you're having any trouble at all. If you need more immediate assistance with anything, the Student Success Center is there all week long. And you can go visit the tutors that are standing by to help you. You can also contact our learning coach. If you need some more one-on-one extra time practicing this, please contact her if our schedules don't coordinate. Because I know for some of you, my schedule's very late if you're on the East Coast and etc. So just make sure you get help and reach out. Okay, so I think we're good here. We do need to package this. So what you're going to need to do, we practiced this during week 1, is go to File. You're going to click on Package. Okay. Oops. There we go. All right, so click on File, Package, then hit, you're going to want to make sure that it can find links. If it can't find the links, it'll say 5 are missing. So in this case, I have 5 missing, but it's because there's multiple layouts I'm using. But make sure this all says they're all found and nothing's missing. So hit Package. I'm just going to step you through it. Yes, you need to save it. You'll give it a file name, hit Continue. And then this is where you'll name it. Make sure at the bottom here where it says Select PDF Preset that it's set to smallest file size, okay? This will ensure a quicker upload and a smaller file size for us all. And then hit Package, and it's gonna give you some warnings. Maybe the fonts you're using are a little weird. If it says overset text, you might wanna go check and make sure nothing is overlapping. You'll hit OK. And then this document contains links that are missing. So if you see that, you need to go back, and the links are your pictures. So if you see that, you'll hit Cancel, because we need to go back. If you have nothing missing, then hit OK, and that will finish the package process. But let's say you saw that. Let's open up our links panel. Again, all our panels can be found under the window drop-down menu. You'll open up your links panel. You'll scroll down. Let me see if I can open this a little bit more. There we go. Pull it down. Okay, see these little red question marks? These are all the things that it doesn't know where to locate it. It can't find it on your computer or where you last saved it. So sometimes it just means you moved it to another photo or another place. So what you can do is double click on it, and then you just find it. So you can do a search for the name. So here's the name. It gives you the name of the file. So buonappetito.ai. So apparently it can't find that. So I can do a quick search for it by double clicking it and typing it in my search bar, the name of the file. And then it'll pull it up if you have moved it, or it will say can't find the file. And then if you see a little exclamation mark in a yellow triangle, that just means that you had maybe gone into Photoshop and made some changes to it since you placed it, and it wants to update it. So you just double click that and we'll do a quick update for you. But that's just if you have anything missing. We want to make sure we remedy this before you hit Package. And then you'll right click on your package file folder, and you will upload that. If you have any problems with packaging files, please come see me on Thursday, or let me know now and we can go over it. I know PCs and Macs are a little bit different, but we can step you through it. Just make sure you get all those elements in there. All right, guys, this is it for our lecture. Thank you for coming. Are there any questions? I'm going to open it up to questions now. Yes, great question. So I'm being asked, do we compress the zip file also. So yes, you're going to zip or compress the packaged folder. You will upload the zip file to the gradebook. Does that make sense? All right, so hopefully, guys, this isn't too labor intensive. If you properly set up your paragraph styles and character styles before you begin, this process is going to go very fast. Also, if you add subtle design elements like divider lines and column lines and maybe a frame around your information, that will also go nice and fast. You can add a footer at the bottom like I've done here. This one says Gino's Pizza, but that's fine. You can, again, use banners, different kinds of banners to kind of add some design. Use your glyphs to add some characters to give it some visual interest. But again, I want to see grouping. I want to see alignment. I want to make sure things are very nice. I'll zoom in here and see if you can see this. This too is a glyph. This little hand pointing. I think this is kind of a cool way to set a menu item apart. Dot leaders are required on this assignment. So as you can see here, I didn't use any, but they are required. So you will need to use them. But that just about covers it. So any other questions? If not, you guys are free to go. I will be posting a shorter demo on how to do the inside page. That probably won't be done until Wednesday or Thursday. I'll try to get it done by Wednesday and have that uploaded by Wednesday night. So again, it might not be till Wednesday night that you have a shorter version of this, but hopefully, and it won't go into depth at all. It's just going to show you how to place items on the page and things that you can add to it to give you some ideas. But hopefully that helps you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for participating. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Yes, this recording will be available. It takes a while. It takes a couple hours to convert it. So it will always be up by Wednesday morning. Maybe late tonight if you're still up. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. Have a great night.